Imagine, just for a moment, a map of the United States, not as a complete puzzle, but with pieces missing. There's this jagged coastline where California once was, and a gaping void in the heartland where Texas used to be. Now this isn't some scene out of a dystopian film. Instead, it's actually a reflection of a sentiment that's been simmering just beneath the surface of our national identity. Recent polls, believe it or not, reveal a pretty startling truth. A significant number of Americans think the country might be better off without certain states. And, this isn't just about political disagreements or cultural clashes anymore. It's a really profound questioning of our very union. What does it mean for the United States when its own citizens start to imagine a future where some of its parts are simply gone? This idea of exclusion, of drawing new internal borders out of frustration or fatigue, well, it kind of forces us to confront an uncomfortable reality. We're living in an era of deep division, where the ties that bind us feel more and more strained. The reasons are complex, a tangled web of economic anxieties, political polarization, and cultural shifts that seem to be pulling us in opposite directions. So, are these just fleeting frustrations, the kind of family squabbles that eventually blow over? Or are we witnessing the early tremors of a fundamental realignment, a sign that the grand American experiment is facing one of its most serious internal tests to date? Tonight, we're going to look deeper. We're not just going to list the states that top this controversial poll. We're going to explore the why. We'll delve into the perceptions and the realities that fuel these feelings, examining the economic, political, and social fabric of each one. We'll look at the data, hear the arguments, and try to understand what's driving this extraordinary sentiment. This is, honestly, a journey into the heart of our fractured union, an attempt to understand the forces that could, at least in the minds of some, redraw the map of America. What follows is a look at the 10 states Americans most often say the U.S. could do without. California. The name itself, once conjured up images of endless sunshine, Hollywood dreams, and Silicon Valley innovation. It was the promised land, the place where fortunes were made and futures were born. For decades it was the engine of American culture and economy, a trendsetter that the rest of the country often followed. People flocked there, drawn by the promise of a better life, a more open society, and opportunities that seemed as vast as the Pacific Ocean. The California Dream wasn't just some slogan, it was a powerful, tangible force that shaped a generation. But somewhere along the way, the narrative started to change. The Golden Dream began to show, signs of tarnish. What was once seen as a beacon of progress is now, in the eyes of many, a symbol of excess and dysfunction. The very policies that were meant to create a progressive utopia are now cited as the cause of its perceived decline. Voters in other states point to soaring housing costs that have pushed the middle class to the brink, creating a homelessness crisis that unfolds in plain sight on the streets of its most famous cities. It's a pretty stark cause and effect. The pursuit of an ideal has, for some, led to an untenable reality. The numbers paint a startling picture. Here's a state with a GDP larger than most countries, but it's also home to the highest poverty rate in the nation when you account for cost of living. We see data showing a mass exodus, with hundreds of thousands of residents leaving for states like Texas, Arizona, and Nevada in recent years, a total reversal of its historic role as a magnet for migration. And this isn't just a handful of people, it's a significant demographic shift, a vote with their moving vans. Folks cite high taxes, burdensome regulations, and a political climate they feel has become increasingly disconnected from the concerns of everyday people. This contrast between the then and the now is really at the heart of the frustration. The state that gave us the personal computer and blockbuster movies is now seen by critics as a place entangled in bureaucracy, where rolling blackouts and rampant wildfires have become a new, grim, seasonal norm. The perception is that of a state so focused on its own progressive bubble that it's lost touch with the core principles of affordability and public safety, principles that allow a society to function effectively for everyone, not just the very wealthy. So, when Americans in other parts of the country say the U.S. could do without California, it's often not about the people or the beautiful landscapes. It's a reaction to what California represents in the national debate. It's seen as a cautionary tale, a glimpse into a future that many fear one of high costs, social decay, and a political ideology that feels alien and imposed. The Golden State, for a growing number of Americans, has become the symbol of a dream that has soured. If California represents one pole of the American political magnet, Texas is its opposite, the Lone Star State. It prides itself on a fierce independence, a spirit of rugged individualism that's just baked into its DNA. For years, the Texas miracle was the economic story everyone was talking about. Low taxes, minimal regulation, and abundant energy created a boom that drew businesses and people from all over the country, especially from states like California. It was the land of opportunity, a place where you could still build something from the ground up, unburdened by the heavy hand of government. This then was a powerful brand, big, bold, and unapologetically pro-business. Texas became a powerhouse, not just in oil and gas, but in technology and corporate relocations. Companies flocked to hubs like Austin, Dallas, and Houston, creating jobs and fueling growth. The state projected an image of strength and self-reliance, a modern-day frontier where the American dream was alive and well. It stood as a stark contrast to the coastal states, offering a different model for prosperity, one rooted in traditional conservative principles. But this very identity, this cause, has produced an effect that now puts it at odds with a different segment of the American population. The state's uncompromising political stance on social issues has become a major point of friction. Its stringent laws on abortion, its approach to voting rights, and its vocal role in the culture wars have made it a lightning rod. For many Americans, particularly those in more liberal states, Texas politics are not just disagreeable, they're seen as a direct assault on fundamental rights and democratic norms. The state's independent streak is viewed less as charming ruggedness and more as a dangerous defiance. The paradox is that the state's successes are intertwined with what its critics despise. The same political climate that fostered its economic boom is the one that drives its controversial social policies. This tension is becoming more visible. We see the state's power grid failing under extreme weather, raising questions about whether its deregulated, go-it-alone approach is truly resilient. We see major corporations, even some that moved to Texas, facing pressure from their employees and customers to speak out against the state's social legislation, creating a clash between business interests and political ideology. So, when people say the Union could do without Texas, it's often a rejection of its political swagger. It's a response to a state that seems determined to forge its own path, even if that path diverges dramatically from the direction a large portion of the country wants to go. The perception is that Texas is not just a state, but the capital of a red America that is increasingly hostile to the values of blue America. The Lone Star State, once a symbol of expansive American opportunity, is now for some a symbol of division and ideological warfare. Florida. For generations, it was America's playground and its retirement home. The then was simple sunshine, beaches, theme parks, and a laid-back lifestyle. It was the place you went to escape the cold, to take the family on vacation, or to live out your golden years in peace. Its identity was built on tourism and real estate, a generally apolitical paradise where the biggest debates were about where to find the best key lime pie. It was a swing state, a purple state, a place that reflected the broader, more moderate temperament of the country. The transformation from that familiar past to its contentious present has been honestly rapid and stark. Florida is no longer just a vacation destination. It's become a primary battleground in America's culture wars, with its governor often at the forefront. The cause is a deliberate political strategy to remake the state into a conservative stronghold, a model for the nation. The effect is a state that is now as polarizing as any other in the Union. What was once seen as a relaxed haven is now viewed by many as a laboratory for right-wing policies. The list of controversial measures is long and has been broadcast nationwide. There's the legislation critics have dubbed the Don't Say Gay bill, restricting classroom instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity. There are the battles with Disney, one of the state's largest employers, over its political stances. There are new laws on voting, education, and diversity programs that have sparked national outrage and legal challenges. For many outside the state, Florida's government seems to be on a crusade, picking fights and challenging norms in a way that feels aggressive and exclusionary. This has tangible consequences. While Florida has seen a massive influx of new residents, drawn by low taxes and warm weather, it's also facing a different kind of exodus. Teachers are leaving the profession, citing a climate of fear and political interference. Doctors are reportedly hesitant to practice in the state due to new healthcare laws. The very things that make it attractive to some, its assertive conservative politics, are making it untenable for others. The data shows a state becoming less purple and more deeply red, hardening its political identity. So, when a poll shows Americans wanting to part ways with Florida, it's not about the beaches or the sunshine anymore. It's a reaction to its new role as the tip of the spear in the culture war. It's seen as a state that has traded its easygoing reputation for one of ideological combat. The perception for critics is that the Sunshine State is now casting a long, dark shadow over civil liberties and tolerance, and its transformation serves as a potent symbol of the country's deepening, seemingly irreconcilable divisions. New York. more than just a state, it's an idea, and at its heart is New York City. The ultimate symbol of the American melting pot, a global capital of finance, art, and culture. For over a century, the image of the Statue of Liberty and the skyline of Manhattan represented the pinnacle of aspiration. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. This was the promise. A place of grit, ambition, and relentless energy. The state, anchored by the city, was seen as a vital economic engine, a gateway to the world, and a testament to America's global power. But the narrative of the Empire State is now a tale of two vastly different realities. The then of bustling streets and boundless opportunity has been overshadowed by another that for many is defined by decline and dysfunction. Observers from other states, and even many residents, now see a place buckling under the weight of its own progressive policies. The cause, they argue, is years of high taxes and heavy regulation. The effect is a state that is hemorrhaging residents and wealth at an alarming rate. The data is undeniable. New York consistently leads the nation in outmigration. It's not just retirees anymore. It's working families, young professionals, and crucially, high-earning taxpayers. They are leaving for states with lower tax burdens and a better perceived quality of life. New York lost over 101,000 residents between July 2022 and July 2023, the largest decline of any state. This exodus has created a doom loop scenario. As the tax base shrinks, the state must either raise taxes on those who remain or cut essential services, making it even less attractive. Beyond the economics, there is a perception of a decline in public safety. National news has been filled with stories of rising crime rates on the New York City subway and high-profile retail theft, creating an image of a city that has lost control of its streets. While statistics can be debated, the perception is powerful. For many Americans, New York, particularly the city, has become a symbol of what they see as failed liberal governance, where policies like bail reform are blamed for a breakdown in law and order. When Americans voice a desire to cut ties with New York, it's a commentary on this perceived fall from grace. It's a frustration with a state that, in their view, has become too expensive, too dangerous, and too ideologically rigid. They see a state that takes a disproportionate amount of federal tax dollars while simultaneously driving away its own economic contributors. The Empire State, once the symbol of American success, is now seen by its detractors as a symbol of American excess and a cautionary tale of liberal policies gone wrong. New Jersey has long occupied a peculiar space in the American consciousness. For decades, it's been the butt of jokes, the land of the Sopranos, the Jersey Shore, and endless turnpike traffic. Its identity was often defined in relation to its neighbors, a sprawling suburb of New York City and Philadelphia. The then for New Jersey was one of industry, diners, and working-class grit. It was a place people passed through, a state whose own identity was often overshadowed. But beneath the punchlines, a more serious narrative has taken hold. The perception of New Jersey has shifted from a comical caricature to a case study in fiscal mismanagement. It is now seen by many as a state trapped in a cycle of its own making. The cause is a long history of political deals, powerful public unions, and a persistent refusal to tackle its deep-seated financial problems. The effect is a state with one of the heaviest tax burdens in the entire country, particularly its notoriously high property taxes. This financial strain is the central grievance. Residents and outsiders alike point to a state where the cost of living feels unsustainable. New Jersey has the highest average property tax rate in the United States. This isn't just an abstract number. It translates to thousands of dollars a year that families must pay just to stay in their homes. It drives retirees out of the state and makes it difficult for young people to put down roots. The state is in a constant struggle to fund its massive public pension system, a financial black hole that consumes an ever larger portion of the state budget. The cause and effect is painfully clear for its critics. Decades of promising generous benefits without setting aside the money to pay for them has led to the current crisis. This forces a perpetual choice between cutting services, raising taxes even higher, or borrowing more money, kicking the can down a road that seems to have no end. For many Americans looking in, New Jersey seems like a state that has mortgaged its future, a place where the average taxpayer is left holding the bag for the political decisions of the past. So, when New Jersey appears on a list of states the U.S. could do without, it's less about culture and more about math. It is seen as a symbol of fiscal irresponsibility. The feeling is that the state is a financial drain, a place that has made promises it can't keep and is now struggling under the weight of those obligations. The old jokes about the Jersey Turnpike have been replaced by a more serious concern, that the state itself is on a road to financial ruin, serving as a warning to others about the dangers of unchecked spending and political expediency. The name itself carries the weight of history. For many Americans, the state is inextricably linked to the darkest chapters of the nation's past. The then is a powerful and painful memory, Bull Connor, the Selma Bridge, the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing. It was the epicenter of the civil rights struggle, a place where the fight for America's soul played out in stark, brutal terms. While the state has its own rich culture, from music to literature to college football, this historical shadow is long and pervasive. In the decades since, Alabama has worked to forge a new identity. It has attracted new industries, with international automakers building massive plants and transforming parts of the state's economy. There has been progress, undeniable and important. But for many outside the state, the now still feels too closely tied to the then. The cause is a persistent set of modern-day statistics and political stances that seem to echo the problems of the past. The effect is that Alabama is often seen not as a state that has overcome its history, but as one that is still defined by it. Critics point to data that consistently places Alabama near the bottom of national rankings in crucial areas. Alabama ranks 47th in healthcare and 45th in education according to U.S. News and World Report. It has one of the highest poverty rates in the country. These aren't just numbers, they represent real struggles for its citizens and paint a picture of a state that is failing to provide basic opportunities for a large portion of its population. This perpetuates a cycle of poverty and lack of access that critics argue is a modern legacy of its historical inequalities. Furthermore, the state's contemporary politics often reinforce this negative perception. Its hardline conservative stances on social issues, similar to Texas and Florida, but often with less economic dynamism to offset them, make it a frequent target of national criticism. The state's near-total ban on abortion and other socially conservative legislation are seen by many as evidence that Alabama remains out of step with the broader direction of the country, clinging to a past that much of the nation wants to move beyond. When Americans say the U.S. could do without Alabama, it is often a judgment on this perceived lack of progress. It is a frustration with a state that seems, in their eyes, to be holding the country back. The feeling is that Alabama represents a stubborn resistance to social and economic change, a place where the struggles of the 1960s are still being fought in new forms today. For them, the state is a symbol of a deep-seated poverty and social conservatism that they feel the nation as a whole should have already left behind. If Alabama carries the weight of history, its neighbor Mississippi carries the burden of statistics. For as long as national rankings have been compiled, Mississippi has seemed to have a permanent reservation at the bottom of the list. The then is not so different from the now, a state consistently ranked last or near last in almost every significant measure of well-being. Last in health outcomes, last in educational attainment, last in economic opportunity. This has been the story for generations. The state's identity in the national mind is almost entirely defined by this single, unfortunate fact of being last. It's a brand that is difficult, if not impossible, to shake. The causes are deep, complex, and rooted in a history of slavery, segregation, and a plantation economy that left a legacy of entrenched poverty and racial inequality. The effect is a persistent cycle that has proven incredibly difficult to break. The state struggles to retain its educated young people, who often leave for better opportunities elsewhere, a phenomenon known as brain drain. Looking at the data is a sobering exercise. Mississippi has the highest poverty rate in the United States, at 19.4%. It also has the highest rate of infant mortality and the lowest life expectancy. These aren't just abstract figures, they represent a profound and ongoing human crisis. They speak to a lack of access to quality healthcare, nutritious food, and good schools. For many Americans looking in, Mississippi is not just a poor state, it's a symbol of a deep and persistent failure of the American system. The cause and effect narrative here is one of historical legacy leading to present-day stagnation. The state's economic base remains less diversified than many others, and its political leadership has often been criticized for not investing enough in the education and infrastructure needed to build a 21st century economy. The state's cultural contributions, particularly its foundational role in American music like the blues, are immense, but they are often overshadowed by the stark reality of its daily struggles. So, when Mississippi appears on this list, it's born from a sense of frustration and perhaps a degree of pity. The perception is that the state is a perpetual dependent, a problem with no clear solution. It's seen as a place where the American dream is least accessible. The argument, however harsh, is that the state represents a drain on national resources and a drag on the country's overall progress. The desire to do without it comes from a place of seeing it as a lost cause, a symbol of problems so deep-rooted that many have simply given up hope for a solution. Median household income in Mississippi is the lowest in the United States at about $49,000. West Virginia, the song Take Me Home, Country Roads paints a picture of a pastoral paradise, of mountain mamas and a feeling of belonging. The then of West Virginia is one of proud, hard-working people who fueled America's Industrial Revolution. They were coal miners, the backbone of the nation's energy supply, living in tight-knit communities nestled in the breathtaking Appalachian Mountains. Theirs was a culture of resilience, self-reliance, and a deep connection to the land. But the country roads that once led to home and opportunity now, for many, lead to dead ends. The decline of the coal industry, the very cause of the state's former prosperity, has had a devastating effect. As the nation shifted to other energy sources, the mines closed and the jobs disappeared. What was left behind was not just economic ruin, but a profound crisis of identity and health. The now of West Virginia is a story of economic depression, population loss, and the worst opioid crisis in the nation. The statistics are just heartbreaking. West Virginia has the highest drug overdose death rate in the country by a staggering margin. West Virginia's overdose death rate is nearly 3 times the national average. This epidemic has hollowed out communities, tearing families apart and leaving a generation of children to be raised by their grandparents. This health crisis is compounded by a bleak economic outlook. The state has one of the lowest labor force participation rates, meaning a huge percentage of its working-age population is not even looking for a job. This downward spiral creates a powerful negative perception. The cause, the collapse of a single industry, has led to a cascade of effects: poverty, poor health, and despair. Outsiders often see West Virginia as a place that has been left behind by the modern economy, a symbol of forgotten America. While the people are known for their warmth and the landscape for its beauty, the overwhelming narrative in the national media is one of tragedy and decline. It's seen as a state dependent on federal aid, unable to find a new path forward. When Americans consider a union without West Virginia, it stems from this view of it as a state mired in intractable problems. It's seen as a case study in the devastating consequences of industrial change and a public health crisis that seems to have no end. The feeling, however unfair to the people struggling there, is that the state represents a burden on the nation's resources and a sad reminder of an industry whose time is past. The beautiful mountain state has become, in the eyes of many, a symbol of American despair. Alaska. It's called the last frontier for a reason. It is a land of mythic proportions, vast, wild, and breathtakingly beautiful. The then of Alaska in the popular imagination is one of gold rushes, rugged pioneers, and a life lived on the edge of civilization. It represents a spirit of adventure and a connection to a raw, untamed nature that has all but vanished from the lower 48 states. Its sheer scale and distance make it feel almost like another country, a remote outpost of America. This very remoteness, however, is the core of the issue. The cause of its unique character, its geographic isolation, is also the effect that makes it seem expendable to some. Alaska is non-contiguous, separated from the rest of the country by more than 500 miles of Canada. This physical separation creates a psychological one. It doesn't feel connected to the daily life and problems of the rest of the nation. Its concerns are unique, managing enormous tracts of federal land, the politics of the oil pipeline, the challenges of life in the Arctic. Furthermore, there is a perception of Alaska as a state that takes more than it gives. It has a tiny population spread over an enormous area, making the cost of infrastructure and services incredibly high. For decades, the state's oil wealth allowed it to function without a state income or sales tax, and in fact, to pay its residents an annual dividend. The Alaska Permanent Fund dividend has paid residents an annual sum, sometimes exceeding $2,000, since 1982. To outsiders, this can look like a state living off its natural resources while contributing little to the national pot. The then versus now here is about its strategic importance versus its perceived relevance. During the Cold War, Alaska's location was of paramount strategic importance, a front line against the Soviet Union. Now, while still strategically located, its role feels less immediate to the average American. Its politics are reliably conservative, but it rarely drives the national conversation. It's seen as a place of stunning nature documentaries, but not as an integral part of the country's economic or cultural fabric. So when Alaska lands on this list, it's an argument of practicality and connection. It's so far away, so different, and so sparsely populated that its departure from the Union feels, to some, like it would have minimal impact on their daily lives. It's not born of anger, like with California or Texas, but of a cool detachment. The feeling is that Alaska is a beautiful, wild, and unique place, but one that is not truly part of the contiguous American family. It's seen as an expensive, distant relative that many people have simply forgotten is there. Arizona. For a long time, its identity was tied to the classic American West, It was the land of cowboys, canyons, and cacti. The then was a story of retirement communities, golf courses, and the majestic beauty of the Grand Canyon. It was a reliably conservative but relatively quiet state, a place where people went for the dry heat and the relaxed, sun-drenched lifestyle. Its politics were local, and its biggest challenges seemed to be managing growth and water in the desert. That quiet reputation has evaporated under the harsh desert sun. Arizona has become a hotbed, a focal point for some of the most contentious issues facing America. The cause is twofold: its status as a ground zero state for immigration, and its central role in the political wars over election integrity. The effect is that Arizona is now seen as a state in constant turmoil, a place where national divisions are playing out in their most extreme forms. Its then as a peaceful retirement haven has been replaced by a now of political strife and social tension. The issue of immigration has defined Arizona politics for years. Its long border with Mexico has made it the front line of the national debate. Controversial state laws like SB 1070, the Show Me Your Papers law, sparked national firestorms and accusations of racial profiling. The image of the state became one of vigilantes in the desert, heated protests, and a constant, simmering tension over border security. This has created a perception of Arizona as a place of anger and division. More recently, the state became the epicenter of the fight over the 2020 election. The partisan audit of the Maricopa County vote count, which found no evidence of widespread fraud, was a spectacle that drew national and international attention. It cemented Arizona's reputation in the eyes of many as a place where democratic norms are under threat, where conspiracy theories have taken root in the political mainstream. The partisan audit in Maricopa County cost millions and was widely criticized by election officials from both parties. So, when Americans express a desire to do without Arizona, it's a reaction to this perception of it as a state of perpetual conflict. It's seen as a laboratory for the most extreme and divisive elements of American politics. The state that was once known for its stunning sunsets is now known for its political showdowns. The feeling is that Arizona is a source of instability, a place that generates more heat than light, and a symbol of a political climate that has reached a dangerous boiling point. California, Texas, Florida, New York, the list goes on. 10 states, each with its own story, its own strengths, and its own perceived flaws. What's clear is that the reasons people might want to vote a state off the island are as diverse as the country itself. It's a complex cocktail of frustration over politics, economics, social values, and sometimes, just a feeling of sheer distance. These are not just casual complaints, they are symptoms of the deep fractures running through our nation. They reveal a landscape where we increasingly see each other not as fellow Americans with different ideas, but as alien tribes with irreconcilable values. The question we must ask ourselves is what this sentiment really means. Is it a genuine desire to break apart? Or is it a cry of frustration? A demand to be heard in a nation that feels increasingly loud and divided? Perhaps imagining a union without a particular state is easier than doing the hard work of understanding it, of finding common ground, of bridging the vast divides of culture and politics. The American experiment was never about everyone agreeing. It was about finding a way to live together, to forge a single nation out of disparate parts, e pluribus unum, out of many, one. This poll, in the end, may not be a roadmap for secession, but a mirror reflecting our own anxieties. It shows us how far we've drifted from that founding ideal. The path forward isn't about subtraction, about removing the parts of America we don't like. It's about rediscovering the capacity for empathy, for debate, and for the difficult, messy, but essential work of building a more perfect union. The map of our country is not just a collection of borders, it's a pact, a promise we make to each other. The question now is whether we still have the will to keep it.